So in this video, what I want to pay attention to is we have this orange line right here. This is our lambda target. Our lambda target is 890. For you guys who are more familiar with air fuel, that's about 13:1 in the air fuel ratio. And as you can see, the bike idles pretty much on target. This is your lambda itself. And if you need to correlate that into air fuel, look right here. We're logging air fuel. So 12.9, 13.0, 13.1, it bounces a little bit. We also have the same thing here. This is our live logger. So what we'll look at in this video is I'm going to make 3 pulls. I'm going to make a pull the way it is. And then I'm going to make a couple of map changes and show you that the closed loop will keep the bike on target. So we'll be looking at this green one for your reference of RPM. This is lambda. This is your lambda target. That's it. Let's do it. So what this shows is when I first hit the throttle, the bike was a little bit lean. The closed loop saw that, caught it, added 20% of fuel, and got it back in check. So this is our lambda, right on our flat lambda target. They're kind of hidden behind each other, so you got to look at it. If you look at that, the closed loop, once it got back to target, the closed loop is taking 1% out. It takes 5 out. It works its way back up to a little less than 1%, but this is the closed loop doing its job to keep the air fuel flat or the lambda flat. So that's one testament to what it does. Okay, so let's make another pull and I'll add 10% of fuel to this map. I'm going to keep the target the same. So the ECU is going to add some more fuel. It takes 100%. I'll take 90% and 100% throttle. As you see, these numbers got bigger. It's added 10% of fuel to it. Let's unpause the live logger and I'll make another pull exactly as it was. And what should happen is this ECU should be pulling a lot more fuel out of it to compensate for 10%. Let's pause the logger. Just as expected, it put 10% of fuel in it. But if you notice, this lambda looks just like the previous pull's lambda, right on target. And that is because the ECU, roughly we saw that it was going less than 1% in a lot of cases. So that same 10% I added, the ECU is pulling out 10, 11% of fuel. You have the air fuel right on target, no problem. The lean spike was a lot less. The closed loop caught it, everything is perfect. Now, to give you another example, I'm gonna take the lambda table here, which we have as the 0.89 lambda, and at 100% throttle, I'm gonna make that 0.85. That's a significant fuel change. It makes the bike a lot richer. And let's see what it does. We changed our target lambda to 8%. The ECU kept it right on target. All the same. Pulled a lot less fuel out because we lowered the target. But nonetheless, no matter what you do, the ECU will keep your air fuel on target. So if you want to take this target lambda table and you want different air fuels at different throttle positions, right now, just for demonstration purposes, we have it all the same. And your base map file, it'll all be the same. But this is part of the blank canvas that we give to the customers. To be able to do what you want as you please, you can move this around based on different TPSs, different RPMs, and you can make this whatever you want it to be. And the closed loop will keep it there no matter what you do. That's the beauty of this. You can get riders to come back and say, you know, I want a little more fuel, a little less fuel, or whatever the case may be. And without you having to be a wizard on your fuel table, you can leave this all the same and just move the lambda table and you'll be just fine. You can also change your limits. You can change your window on how much fuel you allow it to add or take away. Right here is our control range tables. So basically you'll see at idle, we have no fuel correction. We're just letting it idle. But if you wanted to have closed loop on at idle, this is a perfect example. Right here, the bike idles at about 850, 860 lambda. That's about 12.5, 12.6 right this second. So you see right here, the lambda correction is 0. Let's put some values here and allow the ECU to pull fuel out. So you see, now we got the lambda right about on target. The ECU is pulling out 15% of fuel. Closed loop is working, idled up, no problem. This is a perfect example of how closed loop works. And if you see, if I didn't have that window big enough, let's just say I have 5%, the ECU can only pull out 5%, it's still fat. Once you get your map dialed in perfectly, you can make these windows a lot smaller if you'd like, or you can just keep them big so that it always, no matter what you do, we can always find this way back to your target. So to add on to this closed loop deal, a lot of people call it auto tune. What it is really is when you go from racetrack to racetrack, the conditions change. Your corrected altitude, the air quality changes, temperature changes. There's a lot of different changes that happen. The bike will respond different to all of these different conditions. With closed loop tuning, you can pretty much take it from track to track, country to country, rider to rider, and keep the bike on your target no matter what the conditions are.